Our special guest on this program, Marge, she has a ministry of help, so to speak. Tell us about it and introduce us.
Well, when you were talking about Tanya, that made me think of Andi. And Andi does not do that kind of work or anything like that, but what she
doesn't play the piano either. Well, she does, but she's not playing the piano.
She has, you can't live that down.
Yeah.
Andi has a referral agency for people who find themselves in a position of needing some kind of help, assistance in their home, or perhaps just some companionship. And her ministry is called Abide With Me. Andi, tell us a little bit about how this ministry came to be and how long it's been and what it is exactly that you do.
Okay, well, about, I think it was about 2002, a friend of ours from church, his wife had a stroke and he wanted to bring her home and take care of her after she was stabilized. And he was about 75 years old himself at the time, so there was no way that he was going to be able to do the heavy lifting that was required, you know, taking her to the bathroom and getting her dressed every morning. So he sent out hundreds of letters, he said, to different churches in the area to try to find a woman who would come live in their home. He was offering room, board, and a salary, and he didn't get a single response from all those letters. Then he looked into hiring people to come in from, you know, the home health agencies, and the cost was prohibitive for that, and it was actually less expensive to put her in a nursing home. So that's what he ended up having to do. Evelyn lived in the nursing home for several years and eventually passed away there. And to this day, you know, Shell says, I didn't do right by Evelyn. And it just breaks my heart because he did all that he could do,
Amen.
All that was available to him. At the same time, a couple of our kids were in college, trying to get through school without being in debt for the rest of their lives. And I started thinking, you know, there's a whole group of people out there that desperately would prefer to stay in their home. And there's another whole group of people who needs a place to live. You know, it could be a college student, single parent, maybe a middle-aged widow trying to get by on a pension. I thought, you know, there must be a way to match up these two groups of people where they could mutually benefit from the arrangement. And I really feel like this is something God put on my heart to do. I realized that the computer would be the way to do this. I am not a computer person at all. So even though I really felt God calling me to do it, for a couple years I said no. And it got to the point that I was waking up at 3 o'clock every morning just with this burden on my heart that I had to do this. So I went and talked to my pastor, Terry Bailey, down at Indian Run Christian Church, and Terry said, you know, if God's calling you to do something, you've got to do it. So with fear and trepidation, you know, I took a few steps, you know, talked to an attorney about, you know, how to do all this, you know, what kind of an organization to create. Talked to a couple different web designers. You know, we went with a particular guy, and the site was live since 2007. We did run into some problems where the site wasn't working properly. I'm now with a different web developer, and we are just hoping to, you know, get a lot of people to put up their profiles on the site. It's a sort of thing where you go on the site, you can either put up your profile if you're looking for assistance or if you're looking for housing. So both sides have the opportunity to put up their profile. You can communicate with each other on the site for free. You know, it's free to put up your profile, free to communicate with people. And when you feel comfortable with that other person, you can take it off the site, you know, give them your phone number or, you know, your contact information and take it from there.
So they have an opportunity to correspond with one another.
Yes. Yeah, and initially...
before a decision is made.
Yeah, definitely. You know, one of the big questions people always ask is, well, how safe is this?
Yes, is there danger in this?
And you know, there's a danger with getting your feet on the floor in the morning, you know, getting out of bed. I feel that this is safer than just putting an ad in the newspaper, which, you know, a lot of people try to find caregivers that way. Just by virtue of the fact that you have the opportunity to communicate with that person before you exchange any personal information. I have a page of safety tips on the site where, you know, a lot of it's just common sense stuff. The first time you meet somebody, meet them in a public place, take somebody with you, ask for references. You know, if something doesn't quite seem to add up, you know, that's a red flag. of course, bathe your decision in prayer.
And don't give out information they don't need to know.
Exactly.
Right.
And if you come to the point where you decide, yes, I'm going to invite this person to live in my home, have a family member keep charge of the checkbook. I would not turn everything over to this person. There needs to be a system of checks and balances there. But we don't do background checks or anything. The service that we provide is a forum where people can put up their needs, whether it's for housing or for assistance, and hopefully find somebody that will fill those needs. The way I look at it is it's a non-governmental way to help each other. And ideally, churches would be doing this, but a lot of churches aren't large enough that that they would have both people on both sides of that equation.
A lot of times people feel that there's an assurance if somebody's bonded that that's going to be somehow more safe for you to do that. But that's not always the case either.
No,
is it?
To
it doesn't stop it from happening.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's the first time somebody does something wrong, there's no record of it. You know what I mean? So, you really just have to bathe this whole decision in prayer, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Well, what kind of services do the people provide? Or is that established by way of, this is what I need from someone who's going to offer me some help?
Exactly. When you fill out the profile, it's going to ask very specifically what you need, what you're looking for. And to me, that's the beauty of this site, is that the agreement that you make is strictly between you and that other person. For an example, maybe there's an elderly widow who is legally blind, can't drive anymore, but she's totally self-sufficient in her own home. She might just be looking for somebody to spend the night there, for a little bit of, more security, and somebody to drive her to the doctor's and to the grocery store once a week. That would be an ideal situation for, say, a college student who needs to be gone all day. That could also work for maybe a middle-aged widow who's still working, but needs the security of having a paid-for place to live. There may be somebody, like our friends Shell and Evelyn, who he was looking for pretty much 24-hour care. He needed a lot of physical help. A situation like that, you would spell out, personal care, light housekeeping, meal preparation, and I would assume that somebody who was requiring that much help would also offer a salary, to that person. But it's entirely between the two of them what they need.
And so once that contact is established, the person who's in search of someone to assist them would be left to determine references and get the information for their own personal, peace of mind or whatever. But they would need to source out the references and all of the background information on their own.
And I would hope that the family members would be very involved with this whole decision. Because really there aren't a lot of elderly people, I don't think, that are out there surfing the web or that are that comfortable, with doing things on the internet. I picture that it would be people like me, middle-aged people, in their 50s, who are starting to think,
I'm glad you said middle-aged in your 50s. I like that.
Well, we're at the age where our parents are, if they don't need help already, are soon going to need help.
Right.
And, we also have kids who are just getting started in their adult life that we want to help get off to a good start. And I feel like we're the ones that can kind of orchestrate things. And I would definitely want a family member to stay involved and stay on top of things with that person that is in their home with their loved one.
So do you actually don't really have any part of this? You're just supplying the website for
we're
people,
the meeting place.
And you don't charge for your services?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. The way we initially started back in 2007, I had a bunch of focus groups, loosely called. I had friends over for dessert and discussion. And I said, I'm really kind of hesitant about this whole thing because I'm not real keen on the internet myself. But what do you think about this? Do you think this is a service people would use? What do you think would be a fair amount to charge people? Would you actually use this for your mom or your dad? And with the exception of one couple who said, no, it's too scary, you know, everybody else is like, wow, this is great. You know, I wish I had had something like this for my mom or my aunt or my next door neighbor, because there's so much need out there. The initial thought was that it would be free to post your needs, whether, you know, you were looking for housing or for assistance. But at the point that you would want to connect with that person, there would be a $19.95 charge. And that would help us to, you know, with our ongoing costs. Yeah. And I think, as you were kind of alluding to earlier in a little bit of political discussion, I really believe personally that when people get something for nothing, they don't value it. And I feel like if people are putting their heart and soul into filling out these profiles and, you know, trying to find somebody who's a good match, and then they respond to somebody else's email, and that other person doesn't bother to get back to them, you know, that's not very good. And I feel like if both people have a little something invested, that it's gonna work better for both parts. Excuse me one second. At this particular point, since we don't have profiles up on the site until next February of 2013, the entire service is totally free. You know, so you can put up your profile, you can meet the person, you know, make the match, and nothing costs anybody anything.
I was wondering, I know we get a lot of calls here frequently for people who
Just
are
before
looking.
you ask that question, I want to dovetail on what you just said there. You know, you are so correct in making that statement, and it's not politically correct to say this, but you know, we used to, as a ministry, like as part of our Good Samaritan program, we'd want to do something to help families who had children at Christmas time and they maybe couldn't buy presents for the kids or something like that. We used to want to try to help people who at Thanksgiving perhaps wouldn't have any food, and we want to get them Thanksgiving dinner with turkey or something like that. But we have found that there is an element of people, and I'm sure this isn't you that we're talking to, but there's an element of people where they would say, well, it's about September, I need to get my list on there so I can get toys for my kids for Christmas, because you know, they just had no initiative to, you know, they could babysit, they could, you know, do crafts, they could do ironing, they could do something, but why should I do that? You know, somebody's going to get toys for my kids, I'm not going to do this. And one year we discovered with, by talking to a well-known organization, we were providing like 30 turkeys or something like that. So somehow the conversation came up with another major organization. You know what it was when I said. And so they said, you know, we really should compare lists to make sure somebody's not going to the same places. Well, anyway, we found one family that was going to 5 different organizations looking for Thanksgiving turkeys, and they were looking for them, you know, like 2 months before Thanksgiving so they could get their list all organized, and people would take advantage of the system just because you're honest and credible. Everybody is not. And there needs to be some measure of integrity in this whole thing, which I have had 2 cases over the years, and I'm not going to say who they are, and it really doesn't matter who they are because both are deceased. But they wound up unexpectedly, unfortunately, being in the same situation that your friend was in, and they were desperately looking for somebody to come in. So they brought somebody in that they thought was trustworthy, and the person they brought in that they thought was trustworthy, and they absolutely had to have or else, didn't exactly rob them, but pilfered them, I would say would be the word, and just pilfered them and took generations of collectibles and, you know, coins and things like that, and they were thoroughly taken advantage of. It wasn't credible. So if you reach the point where you're in need like this, then there has to be a way to put caregivers with those in need, and yet some measure of common sense or integrity or something along those lines.
I was going to say that, you know, we always have people calling us, asking us if we know. And we know a lot of credible people, and if we know someone's looking for a position or, you know, a few hours a day of time that they have to give up. But we're not in the business of referring people And I would say if there are people right now who have questions regarding the subject, maybe you could go to the phone and ask your question, and we'll ask Andi, and we'll answer as much as we can, because it is an important step. Once you open up your home,
Yes.
you know, you're inviting someone to come into your home, and if you're an elderly person, you're leaving yourself open to just about anything. And we would say too that safety would be the #1
Certainly.
priority, and then the possessions that you have in your home, we want to know that there's someone who is trustworthy. And I know a lot of people do not want people to come into their home because they're frightened of what that person might do when they get there. Are they going to take things? And we know people, as Denny said, from a first-hand basis, you know, that have had things, you know, had bad experiences that way. And so people are reluctant to trust. And you know, really, it shouldn't be that way. In our day, back when we were children, we could go away from home and leave our doors open and not have to worry so much that someone's going to come in. I can remember night after night after night in the summertime leaving the doors unlocked and allowing the air to come through the screen doors. We didn't have air conditioning. But
There was air conditioning.
it was a different time. Yeah, that
Real
was
air
it. That was
We had a solar clothes dryer when I was a kid.
yeah.
With a line.
Couple of little
Yeah.
biggest expense was in the clothespins and the rope you hung them on. But anyway, you know, times are different today, and there is every element of evil out there, and so people have to guard against it. So if anyone has a question you'd like to present to Andi on any aspect of the service that she's bringing or that she's talking about today, then give us a call and we'll ask her, and she can answer
Well,
to
I
the
have
best of
a,
her
I have a
ability.
question, a praise report. Tell me something you've done where you can say, boy, I was so
Yeah,
glad we did
anybody?
this. Do you have any praise reports?
Well, we haven't had any matches yet, so
Yeah, so this is conceptual.
this, yes, you know, like I said, we've been up since 2007, but the site, unbeknownst to me, was not really working properly. We had quite a few profiles put up there, actually from all around the country. You know, we had one from Austin, Texas, and one from Orlando, Florida, and Maryland, and Chillicothe, Ohio, and never enough from any one area. But at one point, I had several Malone College students who were looking for a place to live, and I had a couple people in Canton who were looking for somebody, and they never connected. And come to find out, the site wasn't working, and which is why I'm with a different person now who assures me it is working. Let me tell you just a couple of other real quick things about the site. I also have a blog on the site where I write about a lot of things. My training is in occupational therapy, and I spent 7 years working in long-term care at a nursing home down in Bolivar, and I kind of write from my experiences down there. It's so funny you had that sock aid here, because you know that's one of the tools of our trade, you know, that we work with a lot. But I have on the site a series of blogs about how to adapt your home as you age, different things that you can do. Some are quick and easy, like get rid of the throw rug so you're not falling, you know, tripping and falling. Things like installing, I can't even think of the word right now, but you know, bars around the
Safety
toilet,
bars,
safety
yeah.
bars,
Bathtub.
and the bathtub and things like that. If you want to spend more money widening the doorways, or you know, just moving furniture out of the room if you're going to need to use a wheelchair, different things like that. The surface of the carpet to make it safer for a walker in the home. I also have book reviews on the website pertaining to anything dealing with aging or diseases. There's also what we call a book club up there. I would invite your listeners and people here to go ahead and send in book reviews. I'd be happy to put them up on the site as long as it's pertinent to what we're doing there.
We have a friend who lives in Struthers, and she has need for, or is at least interested in what you're talking about, and she wants to know, Is this what you're talking about just for people who live in this neck of the woods, or does it work as far away as Struthers?
Well, it depends on what God does. I think when I first started out, I had a really big vision, you know, that it would be nationwide. And I've kind of pulled back right now, and we're trying to focus on these 5 local counties: Stark, Summit, Tusk, Carroll, and Wayne. But there is also a place on there where you know, if you're filling out your information, it says other. Mm-hmm. So I would encourage, you know, if somebody's outside of those 5 counties, go ahead. I'm not sure, is that Trumbull or Mahoney?
Well, I'm guessing it would be Trumbull, I think. Or it might be Mahoney, yeah, it could be Mahoney.
But, you know, feel free to put the profile up there, and I can add counties, you know, at will. It's just right now I was trying to focus close in to...
You know, I was thinking that even interstate, that there might be people attending college that live here and go to college in Indiana or Illinois, or
well, and the thing too is so many families are spread out. I mean, how many people live here and their mom's in Nebraska, you know, or something like that, and I do have a vision that someday it will be nationwide. You know, it just depends on, you know, God doing what He's going to do in His timing. I've kind of been a little bit impatient with that, but I'm trying to be obedient to what I feel He's calling me to do, and I'll just have to leave it in His hands what He's going to do with it.
Well, Andi Michelson, you're doing a great job, and we'll talk more in a little bit. Jeff Ball is going to sing for us, and if people want to get a hold of you or find the site, how do they do that?
Okay, the web address is abidewithme.us. So don't go to .com because you won't find it there. It's Abide With Me, just like the hymn, abidewithme.us. Or you can send it to my email, which is abide, ABIDEW, me, abidewme @hotmail.com. And I'll respond to you as quickly as I can.
Oh, good. And we'll mark those addresses down if anybody just didn't get it. And